What is going on, man? We are back in Black in the building. Shout out to everybody out there at the Core Plantation doing what they need to do to survive. Shout out to all my siblings in Las Vegas, Nevada, Tasho, everybody out there, Lil Angelo, everybody. You already know what it is. So shout out to you. Shout out to the homegirl Shawnee. Philly is definitely in the building. Shout out to the homegirl Erica. Florida, aka Florida, definitely in the building. Shout out to my brother James Youngblood. Texas is in the building. Shout out to my brother Dave from No Compromise. Georgia's definitely in the building. Shout out to the homegirl Melinda all the way in North Carolina, aka North Kakalaka. So shout out to her. Hey man, the hype of 2025. Oh, I know you're gonna be like, man, Warren, you don't hardly ever talk about sports, but we gonna get into it today. Let's get it. Man. Everybody is all up in arms about Luka Doncic being traded for Anthony Davis. Let me tell you, this is called business. This is business. They don't care how loyal people are to Luka Doncic. They don't care how loyal people are to the Los Angeles Lakers. This is business. So I wanted to talk about this today so we can discuss business. I want you guys to go look up Steve McMahon, the owner of the WWE, and how he does business. That's how business is supposed to be done. This isn't about whether somebody likes you. It's about business. And when you're dealing with the system of racism, white supremacy, you got to know how to conduct business. And everybody just assumed because Luka Doncic is, dominant society, and he's a superstar athlete, that he was beyond reproach. Well, the Dallas Mavericks, who are owned not by Mark Cuban anymore, they are owned by the same group of people that own the Venetian, the Adelson Group. And what do most groups that own buildings and own real estate and own stuff, what's the bottom line? The money. And they weren't going to pay Luka Doncic $300 million to be hurt and all this other stuff. So this should give us a great insight on how business is conducted. The dominant society does business with no feelings, no moral compass, no nothing. We're just going to do it. We're going to make it move. And if not, oh well. That's how business is being done. And we have to learn that when we're doing business. And we have to understand that racism, white supremacy, it's the competition of resources. According to Dr. Claude Anderson, according to Neely Fuller Jr., we are all infantile in the system of racism, white supremacy. We are a prisoner of war. So with that being said, I thought we would just have a talk about it. Look at all the things that's going on. You notice how I see black folk all in the street with the Mexican flags, protesting with them. Those same people that you're protesting for, ask them if they feel like foundational black Americans should get reparations, and let's see if you're going to be waving that flag then. I think what we need to do right now is stay focused on what is the best thing for us. This is the 2025 hype. See, it didn't shock me much. And the reason why it didn't shock me much is because they're doing business. This is business. This isn't about people's personal feelings. The dominant society is very good at doing business and putting personal feelings to the side because it's not facts or feelings. It's business. But normal the time it's, facts over feelings, right? Facts, not feelings. So the fact is those teams have an insight on both of those players, and that's why they did the deal that they did. Now, we need to understand how it works in the system of racism and white supremacy and how it's not established in the system of justice, because nobody's making sure the racial group needs the most constructive help receives the most constructive help. That's why when it's time to speak upon reparations and what is owed to us, we start talking about every other racial group. We start talking about things that don't matter, things that convolute the argument. I do believe that Luka Doncic is the hype of 2025 because they have nobody else. LeBron James is graciously carrying the league right now because he's the only one that's, I would say, mature enough to give the NBA what it needs. They want a person that can carry the league, that has no smut on their name. They know how to do business, and they know how to push the league forward in a profitable way. And I believe that's why LeBron James is still playing for the Lakers. And I believe that's why he's still the face. Because they have nobody else. So smart move on the Lakers' point. Lakers are like, well, we're going to need somebody because LeBron James is getting old. We just don't know how business is ran. That's why everybody's so upset. Once you understand how business is ran, you're not going to have this mentality. Drinking this anise tea. I just think that we gotta pay attention to this stuff. I always pay attention. There's always something you can draw from. I was watching this show with Chad Ochocinco's woman. Very attractive, very gorgeous sister. Fine in a motherfucker. And it's this show. I forgot what the show is called. Something Wags something. And they had a dominant society Puerto Rican on there. And this sister was like, she's a culture vulture. And she comes around black people and she's a culture vulture. So they called her to the table, the dominant society sister. She had a nerve to question the sister of, well, what have you done for the culture? What that sister said in reaction was priceless to me. She said, what I do for the culture, I'm a real estate agent. I put black people in homes. That's what I do for the culture. What do you do for the black culture? And that girl couldn't, she had no say. And then she started fighting with the black sister. And you know what I noticed on this show? With Chad Ochocinco's girl? All those sisters got on cold. And they kept repeating the same thing. We are already stigmatized as the violent people. So we can't have someone that's not black coming amongst us and fighting with us. That's a bad look on our businesses, a bad look on our brand, and she doesn't need to hang around us in those type of settings. And it was a black restaurant where they were fighting at, and I said, wow, finally we're getting on code. Now, these sisters may not all be foundational black American, but it's about getting on code and not just allowing someone to come amongst you that's not a part of your racial group and think they can question a black person about what they have done. A smart dominant society person would have been like, hey, if you feel like I'm a culture vulture, that's your opinion. I don't think that I am. I'm not here to argue. I don't want to get loud. I don't want it to be an issue at this restaurant because I'm very aware of especially black women fighting, and I just know that stigma. I don't want to be the cause of this, and I'm going to go ahead and walk away. No, what this dominant society person did, she did a Robin DiAngelo. Go read that book. Go read that book by White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. She went into victim mode. Oh, well, I didn't know if I was going to have another kid and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I just terminated my kid. No, that doesn't have anything to do with what that sister asked you. What do you do for the culture? Since you want to ask a sister what they do. We need to understand when the dominant society does things like trade players and do that, let's not get mad. Let's get glad. Unless you have vested interest in those teams, what's the point of getting glad? What's the point of getting mad? Do you have any vested interest in these teams? Then keep it moving. Stay out of it. Like as Neely Fuller Jr. says, you see two white supremacists, suspected white supremacists argue, don't choose a side unless they are replacing the system of racism, white supremacy, and establishing the system of justice. If they're not, those are just two slave masters arguing about who's the biggest slave owner. It's a fact. Don't take a side. But we also have to follow Dr. Claude Anderson's principles of voting your interest. And it seems like Mr. Trump is doing God's work right now. So we're just going to put it in his hands and let him do what he's been doing. Look, you can question the president. You can do whatever you want. It's above your pay grade. Vote your interest. And we have to have a difference of opinion. That's fine. But we could come together for the common goal of replacing this wicked system with a system of justice. You know what I don't like? And I'm going to comment on it now. What I don't like is this. I get it. All racial groups have had a hand in racism, white supremacy, and in the slave trade. And I agree 100%. Me and Dave from No Compromise and James Youngblood, we have these conversations offline. So I agree. But you know what I noticed, David, that's been going on? I think it's quite funny. No, dude, it's not racism, white supremacy. It's the Jews, bro. The Jews are doing it. No, it's the system of racism, white supremacy. well, I can't be racist because I'm Jewish. And you're a part of the racism, white supremacy clan. You're a part of that atmosphere. If you're not trying to replace that system. People think because they're a part of a certain racial group or whatever, you can convolute the argument. I've had people on Twitter before. I remember when my Twitter got taken away like 3 or 4 years, probably about 5-6 years ago. You know, Jewish people were, it's the Jewish people, right? And then you go to the regular white people and they're like, it's not us, it's Jewish people. Then you talk to the Jewish people and they're like, no, it's them. And I started to learn, like, you know what? Y'all just all on code, as David from No Compromise would say, masters of confusion. I don't care what racial group you identify with. If you are a part of the system of racism, white supremacy, and you are not trying to establish a system of justice, meaning the racial group that needs the most constructive help gets the most constructive help, I'm talking about legally. I'm not talking about immigrants. I'm not talking about people that immigrated over here. I'm talking about people that have been here since the beginning of time, since the antebellum period, which is foundational Black Americans. If you're not trying to replace that system and establish a system of justice, then I don't know what we're talking about. And it's so funny how every other racial group could get their repayment. The Native Americans got what they were supposed to get. Our Jewish brothers and sisters, white dominant society Jewish brothers and sisters, what happened to them with the Holocaust, that was horrible. And they got their reparations, and they still get their reparations, as they should, because that's what happened to them. I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen with foundational Black Americans and when will we get our justice, because that's the thing that I'm rooting for the most. See, I think rooting for your own racial group gets convoluted of you being some type of bigot or racist. No, I'm just wanting my racial group to get what they're rightfully deserving of, and that's repayment. It's so funny how it's like, oh, well, you weren't there during the slavery times. You're right. And a lot of the dominant white society that are part of the Jewish community, they weren't there during the Holocaust, but you know what? We still are supposed to respect them and respect the struggle that their family went through. Right? Right. So since we respect their struggle and we respect the Holocaust and we respect the survivors of that Holocaust, I'm just asking the same thing of foundational Black Americans. Respect our struggle. Respect our descendants of slaves. Respect us. Respect what we've fought against. Jim Crow, segregation, lynching, redlining, gentrification, slavery by a new name. Respect those things, because I feel like we get on this emotional roller coaster and then we forget about us because we're so busy defending us to other people. Don't defend us to other people. When people are like, well, why do you think you should get it? And then give them books. Read Slavery by Another Name. Read Black Labor, White Wealth. Read The New Jim Crow. I don't have time to explain it to you. And if you don't know, that's not my problem. Thank you. And I'm done. Guilty. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Don't get emotional. Don't go back and forth with people. They're going to pick at you and, well, you guys deserve it. Say, hey, I think you should read these books. And mention Slavery by Another Name. And say, oh, and that was written by a white person. So why would a white person write a book like this? Because I know they're not writing these books for shits and giggles. And then rest your case and move forward. Don't argue with these people, because like Neely Fuller said, Neely Fuller Jr. said this, and it was a cold thing. He said, the dominant society knows about racism and white supremacy at 3 years old. So don't be explaining this to them. And if they really want to know, they'd read the books. So don't forget that. And remember, Luka Doncic getting traded, that's business. Don't let your emotions get tied up in any of these teams unless you have personal stock invested in these teams. Other than that, remember, it is just entertainment. I'm done. Guilty. I'm out. Peace.